Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Welcome to Lady Khadija radiallahu anha, may God be pleased with her online college. A-Level Maths, Year 2, live lesson, Pure Maths. Today we're looking at exact trig ratios, part 2, following on from the previous lesson. If you're following through in the book, it's Pearson ed Excel UK A-Level Year 2, Chapter 5, Example 6. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Just a quick recap from yesterday, from the previous lesson. There's some trig ratios that you have to know, you have to memorize. One or two of them are quite easy. So the sine of 30 degrees, otherwise written as radians as pi over 6, is equal to a half. Similarly, the cosine of 60 degrees, also written as pi over 3 in radians, is equal to a half. Tan, the tangent of 45 degrees, which would be pi over 4, is equal to 1. So there are a couple of the easy ones. The other ones are not so easy to stick in your head, but you have to try to memorize each one of them. And also there were a couple of other rules that I showed you, such as sine of pi plus an angle is equal to minus the sine of that angle. So today we're looking at applying some of those rules to be able to get the exact value. So that means we don't want a decimal, but we have to get it in the root 2 over 3 or something like that format. So the question is, work out the sine of, and it's minus 7 pi over 6. And today's method is going to be using the sine graph, and we're going to be looking for symmetry. But let's just try to spot which of the sine values that you'll have memorized by the time you go into the exam will be helpful. So it's minus 7 pi over 6. So when you look through your sine values, you got sine pi over 6, sine pi over 3, sine pi over 4. It's probably going to be this one here, the sine pi over 6 is equal to a half. So let's just copy that. And then you want to take a look at the question and you want to try and rewrite it. So it's got sine, somewhere in there is a sine pi over 6 or something like that. So here we could say we've got sine of minus 7 over 6 can be written as minus a whole and then another minus 1 over 6. So that's one way of doing it. But let's switch to the graph. I did say this method is based on the graph. So let's get a graph in here. And what you want to do is, let's make it nice and big so you can see it properly. So now on that sine graph, you want to be able to spot where is the minus 7 pi over 6. So like I said just a second ago, minus 7 pi over 6 is really minus 6 over 6 pi. That's minus pi. Take away another 1 over 6 pi. So we have to go from the 0, we have to go leftwards until we reach minus pi, because 6 over 6 is just 1, so it's just minus pi. And then from there, we want to just go a little bit more left, carry on going 1/6 more pi. So starting from 0, we want to go all the way to minus pi, and then it's a bit more, so it's minus 1 over 6 more, minus 1 over 6 pi. So it'd be about here. So this would be minus 7 over 6 pi. So if I just draw a line going straight up, then we would reach that point here on the sine graph. And that's the point that we want to know as an exact value. But the advantage of having it as a graph is that what we can do now is we can say, well, which other point would be the same as that? So we could come back across. We could come back across until we're in the positive territory here, and then come back down to here. And what we'd say is that this answer that we want on the left with the question mark, and this, so that's your minus 7 pi over 6. That's the answer we want. We'll get that same answer if we were to use this value of on the angle, so where the arrow is. So the question is, well, if this where the question mark is minus 7 pi over 6, then in terms of pi, what have we reached here? So remember that we got to here, that was minus pi, and we just went 1 over 6 pi more. So using the symmetry, this distance here would just be 1 over 6 pi. So we can say that's 1 over 6 pi. So if we can get the answer for 1 over 6 pi, that answer there would be exactly the answer that we can use for the minus 7 over 6 pi. But 1 over 6 pi is fantastic because it's one of the ones that we memorize. Sine of pi over 6 is equal to a half. So we can simply say it's that same answer that would be the answer for sine of minus 7 over 6 pi. And that's an example of where the graph, knowing how to use the graph really helped. Okay, join me for more on radians in the next lesson. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be with you and the mercy and blessings of God.